Classic on BBC Radio Kent. You're listening to Anna Louise and Summer Saturdays. Why do we stress the small things in life? Why just can't we easily get over it all? For me, it's bad manners. And when you go on a date, I've been on several dates where the guy's eaten with his mouth open and continued the conversation, or picked open the whole dinner plate with his fingers, like whether it's chicken and he's pulling it off the bone, things like that, and they really get your back up and really stress you out. Or stubbing your toe, that makes me yell. Why do we stress the small things? How can we get over it and get on with our lives? Well, psychologist Honey Lancaster can tell all about it. Hi Honey, how are you?
Hi Anna Louise.
Honey, why do the little things in life potentially ruin our day?
Well, it's quite interesting, really, because people are so used to thinking about the big things in life, stressing us out and causing us irritations, like, moving house and relationship breakdowns and things. But actually, this recent survey that was published by Compede, they make blister plasters. They asked people, what are those sort of small bugbears, those daily irritations? And it was really interesting because there were lots of things that actually Brits seem to find really irritating that you might consider quite small things. So some of the top 10 were bad manners. People can't stand, about 85% of people said they really can't stand it when people don't say thank you, or they don't even sort of hold the door if you're coming through. And then there were other things like antisocial behaviour on public transport, people not moving their bag off a seat, or people just taking up too much room. And then there are other things that probably everybody can relate to, things like those irritations when someone doesn't respond to your text message or doesn't get back to you, those kinds of things. So what's interesting about this is that I often call this the buckaroo effect, because it's a bit like that game, where you've got the little horse and you put lots of little things on it and you keep loading it and loading it and loading it until eventually it kicks off. And I think sometimes we feel a bit like that in daily life, that any one of these little things we could perhaps cope with, but it's the build-up of all these little things on top of one another that can just really make us feel like we're going to blow.
Well, Honey, I'm bringing in producer Casey Hayburn here at BBC Radio Kent, because he's got a problem and he needs to talk to you.
Hi, Honey.
We'll try and do our best with it.
Well, so when I heard about this story, one thing for me that I've been on about for a while, the little things to me, like getting clothes caught on a door handle, that will ruin my day more than something big happening. And I don't know why. I feel like it's because it's just something that's so minute and inconvenient and could have quite easily not happened that it's
don't diagnose yourself.
Thing.
Honey's going to talk to you about this. Why does he end up feeling like this, Honey? Because I've been witness to it here in the studios. He'll catch his clothes on the door handle and I can see the frustration in his face.
Really? Okay, well, there's a number of things that could be going on here. So one of the things is that we know that psychologically, things that we expect to stress us out or we expect to find irritating, we actually can sort of sometimes cope with a little bit better because we sort of defend ourselves from them. We sort of prepare ourselves, if you like, and we kind of bring all our resources to the fore. Whereas when something catches you off guard, even if it is something relatively small, like catching your clothes on a door, that can take us by surprise. And it's that element of kind of catching us off guard that can kind of break our defences down, if you like. The other thing is, if it's something you do repeatedly, so if it's something you've done a number of times, we can then actually go into what's kind of we often call a negative self-talk. So we start berating ourselves, and we might hear this voice in our head that says, oh, you stupid so-and-so, you've done it again, and you know where that door handle is, why do you keep letting this happen? And so we can sort of compound an issue by kind of berating ourselves because of something. Does that sound like the kind of thing you might have done in the past?
See, I don't know if I take it out on myself, though, is the thing. For me, it's more if I'm trying to get somewhere in a hurry or something, it's just another thing on top of the kind of, I guess, the bigger thing where I'm like, okay, I'm in a hurry, like, let's get going.
Like you said, Casey, it's about you're trying to get to where you want to go. And actually, we know this from the way that, anybody who commutes to work or anything or has to go in traffic, you can get very irritated when you're just trying to do what seems like a simple thing, get from A to B, and something kind of gets in your way, either trips you up, catches you on a door handle, or somebody barges past you in the street, that kind of thing can feel very, very uncomfortable and very irritating, because you've got a goal in mind. You've got something that you're trying to achieve. And sometimes it is those little things that get in our way. So, I mean, what came out of this survey was the surprising level of irritation people feel towards a blister on their foot. And at first you think, well, why would you get annoyed with that? But actually, when you think about it, it's something that's just impeding your progress, where you're trying to make straightforward progress towards a relatively simple goal, getting from A to B. And it can be something very small that trips us up, and that can add to that level of irritation, because it can seem so unnecessary. And I think that the important thing here is that when we let those things get to us, time and time again, it can really build up. So it's important to address them and do something about it. So for you, it might be, I don't know, wear a different jacket that doesn't have a pocket that's going to get caught on the door handle. Of course, we need to, not sweat the small stuff, or whatever the phrase is, and not let those things get to us. But the reality is sometimes we just need to put something in place as a sort of barrier that stops us getting affected by the same thing over and over.
Casey, you're someone who, you like everything very organised. You like everything needs to be on time, and I'm very kind of spontaneous. So the little things don't get to me, honey. If I get stuck somewhere, or something like that happens, I'll just be like, oh well, I literally don't sweat the small stuff. I always look at the bigger picture. Is there anything in this that's about personality as well?
Oh, yes, I think undoubtedly. I mean, we certainly do differ in terms of our personalities, in terms of certain sort of factors. And one of them can be that some people are much more what I sort of call process-orientated people. They very much like to do things the same way. They like the consistency. They like the dependability of it. Whereas other people almost sort of welcome a little bit of a variety in their day, or don't mind so much when things go, when life throws us a bit of a curveball. It can almost sort of stimulate them in a way. So it may just be that you differ in that sense, where you might find it okay to cope with those little bumps in the road because you also quite like a bit of excitement and stimulus, whereas perhaps, Casey, you like things to be quite consistent, quite dependable, quite familiar. And so perhaps you would find it a little bit more irritating when something does come along and kind of throw you off track.
Well, it's interesting because I did that Myers-Briggs test to try and look at how I learn, how I am, what my personality is like, how I work. And that is absolutely me. I think through my talking rather than talk through my thinking. I like to know what I'm about to say and will kind of know what I'm about to do. If I'm going to start something, I want to know that I'm going to be able to finish it rather than be at the point where I have to suddenly move on to something else. Like I'm not a butterfly. So I know very much that about myself, that that is exactly how I am. And if I set out to do something, I want to finish it. I mean, like Game of Thrones is a prime example. I went back and watched the whole thing, and I made sure that I watched it all in order, and didn't want to know anything about the new series, because I wanted to watch it all in order and recap it and know exactly where I'm going. And I would make sure that I'd watch it consistently and pick up new things. So where I couldn't then just jump to another series. So I've been holding off going to see the new Marvel film, for example, because that's a different series of things that I want to watch, but I don't want to start it halfway through, like
so
watching something else.
And change.
No, I want to go like, right, that's done.
Linear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm the complete opposite, honey. I love spontaneity. I love it when things go wrong. I love it when there's a sudden change in the day, or I might be running late and it means that something else happens. I love the fact that life can be so varied and everything can change in an instant. I love change.
I love my problem solving. So if something goes wrong, that's when I really feel like I thrive. I love going, right, okay, what's the problem? What can we do to work around that? So there is
to kind of get back on track.
Yeah, it is exactly that. Like, and that's where I feel like that's why I love like escape rooms and stuff like that, because it's all about like, right, okay, we're stuck. We need to get out. Let's get from A to B. Like, we shouldn't be in here. Where are we meant to be? So it's like a mental thing.
Well, and I think this is what's what's really fascinating about, human beings in general, that we are all different. And although we do share some commonalities and some similar traits sometimes, what makes us unique often are the differences between us and the way we see other people approaching things differently. And of course, that also transfers then onto how we deal with our problems and our little irritations in life. So, for example, for someone such as yourself, who you like things to be quite predictable, quite linear, quite ordered, quite well ordered, then what you said there was key, that you said, if a problem comes up, you like to just deal with it, get it out of the way so that you can get back on with your day and back on target. So you would be the sort of person who, for example, a good coping strategy for those little irritations is to kind of put in place a better process. So for you, it might be go through a different door than the one that catches your clothing, or
I feel like that's the window out of my bedroom, though. That's the problem.
You need to get used to bungee jumping then.
Whereas perhaps, for those of us who are a little bit more able to cope with those kind of minor irritations, and we quite thrive on sort of stimuli and change, perhaps the things that upset us or get us more irritated or more frustrated is a whole different kind of thing. And for us, it might be more about managing our emotional response to things and making sure we don't sort of fly off the handle and say something we regret because we're perhaps more impulsive types. And so it can sort of transfer not only on what actually stresses you out, what irritates you, but also then what do you do about it when these little things come up in your day. Maybe just planning ahead will help you to kind of make sure you're not getting to boiling point.
I've actually done that, to be fair. I now go cross country rather than motorway, and it's
there you go.
It's blooming lovely. It's very relaxing.
Green spaces, very good for the mind. We know that. We know that the more exposure we get to green, the more kind of chilled out we can feel, and the less depressed as well. So it's a good way to go. If you can choose a route that's a bit greener, more rural or whatever on your way to work, that can help some people.
There are alpacas on the way as well, so that's a 10 out of 10 for me.